This is personal.
Very few of us know about the wars fought in the shadows that have raged on this planet. Do you feel responsible?
Sam, Olivia, first of all, congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Sam, I have to start with you, sir, because I think it's so interesting. I didn't have time to count all the movies and all the appearances and everything, but you're leading this show and really getting us to take us on a real Nick Fury story. What was that like for you, knowing that, again, this is your story? You're really, like, this is your Iron Man in a lot of ways.
What? My Iron Man? What?
This is like your starring vehicle, yeah.
You know, I was actually happy. I mean, people have always been saying, well, we need a Nick Fury movie, blah, blah, blah. And I always thought, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours is not enough to do a Nick Fury movie. So to have 6 hours to explore this story is great, you know. And yes, it's a Nick Fury-led story, but, you know, all those people that are on that poster, all these people that are in it, have their own arcs that are pretty complete in an interesting sort of way, and they all complement, you know, Nick in their relationships. And it's kind of wonderful to do it. Like I said, you know, I mean, we're very used to seeing Nick at work or in the field or doing whatever he's doing, but, you know, you never seen Nick Fury, you know, take his house key out and open his door, go in the house with him and, you know, see what's there, you know. What's in Nick Fury's refrigerator, you know?
Seriously.
Well, what kind of furniture does Nick have? Does he have a backyard? Who cuts his grass? You know,
There's some other questions I'm not going to get into because the internet will get all into spoilers, but you know what I'm talking about. Olivia, I do have to say, I am so happy that you did this, but I am even more flabbergasted when I learned you campaigned hard to be in the MCU. Is this correct? Like, you were like, oh, I have to hear about this because both of you have such a theater background. I could see you campaigning to be in 12th Night and all of that. I don't know about this campaign.
I mean, campaign might be a stronger word, but I did phone my agent going, well, I want to be in the after, because I just enjoyed them so much. And I don't know if she just humoured me and went, absolutely, darling, yes, and put the phone down and rolled her eyes. But it came about, and I don't know how, and I'm thrilled it did. And yeah, I feel like a kid in the sweet shop. I'm just really excited.
What I think folks are going to be most surprised is you're so lovely. You have me, like, both of you cheesing right now, but I will say this, you're terrifying in it. Like, you give Dolores Umbridge vibes in the best way possible. Well, how fun was that? Because I just don't think many people would cast you as a villain like that.
I know. Yeah, well, that's another thing that's so lovely.
I don't know. I'm not saying villain. I'll go villainous.
Okay. She's got villainy sort of tendencies.
True. Not a villain, sorry, but I should say
She's
villain.
walking a fine line.
She's like, really is, though. But go ahead, sorry, what was that part of the motivation?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said yes, whatever they'd given me, but it was really lovely to find out, fun. I get to do things I haven't done before, and it's always fun to play something different if you can, and so this was just a win-win for me.
One of the things Emilia and Kingsley and Ben and really everyone has said, because there is so many theater actors as a part of this, is just how much this felt like a bit of that, like a troupe coming together. And I know you and Ben, like, starting what you guys were able to do on Marvel and then coming into this, that must have been really interesting because you get maybe more reps in television and more chance to really sort of develop these characters over episodic. Was that really fun doing that with Ben? Because y'all really are tennis match scenes. And you have another great one with Don Cheadle as well, where it's like just two great actors doing it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but, you know, Ben's a fantastic actor. Don's a fantastic actor. I mean, I've known, you know, Don for a very long time, watched what he's done. I've watched Ben and all these other things, you know, like Animal Farm and all these things. Who is this dude, you know? But I remember when we were doing Captain Marvel, he was always green. He had his mask on most of the time. And he would, you know, when we were in New Orleans working, he'd be in a hammock smoking a cigarette with his green face on, playing his music and fanning, you know? So he was always in that character. So I didn't see him as Ben that much. So it was very different to work with him this time. But the joy and professionalism of both those actors, you know, bleeds into what we come here to do. It's very important to trust the people on the other side and not worry about, you know, them holding up their end. They're going to hit their marks. They're going to say their lines, and they're not going to be tedious. Yeah, please don't be tedious. Don't be, you know, don't ask me about this shit. Just let's do it, you know, and let's do it and trust the fact that we did it. And they are both those people. Well, she is too. You don't have to say, how was that? You know already. You don't even talk about it. You know, so that was great.
Fury,
We gotta be very careful now.
There's a lot of father-daughter stuff going on in
Yes.
here. How did you guys lean into that so quickly? Because I know television, you don't always get as much time as like theater to sort of build that bond.
Well, I think I'm obsessed with him before, and then I'm now just madly in love with him, having worked with Ben. So that was all. It was a safe space, but also the thing about acting is it is like tennis. You're better with a better partner, and he's just the best actor I've ever worked with. So it becomes fun. It's not in any way competitive. It's just like, oh, what are you gonna do? Ooh, and then what am I gonna do? Ooh, and then what are you gonna do? Oh my God, I think I'm gonna do this. Like it just kind of, right?
I agree, because it was a big daunting one, and I was actually quite intimidated, but because I'm a huge big, anyway, but we just got in and we were nice to each other, and we were nice to each other, and that allowed us to just sort of go places.
Yeah.
And I think it ended up like a lot better,
Yeah.
We pimped it.
Obviously, for folks that saw Captain Marvel, your dynamic is, different. There's time has passed. We're getting to see you in both those. But can you describe sort of like where we start Secret Invasion? What would you say Telios describes the relationship? Because it's in a very interesting place when you guys start off. Yeah, between the two of you.
Look, I think, well, they're kind of a bit estranged. I mean, I'm aware of, the shift in dynamic. I'm not quite. We learn a lot more about what's going on, but we are definitely, there's a distance there. But I don't think Talos is aware of just how bad things have gotten.
Yeah, it's like a classic. I feel like a classic problematic father-daughter relationship in that we are estranged and he maybe hasn't accepted the change and hasn't been able to see who Gaia has become in the interim and who, where her journey is actually taking her. And the anger that she has is a very relatable daughter-like frustration that I think happens, and she goes on a journey of self-discovery. They together go on a journey of self-discovery of what this relationship is.
I think it's so funny too to look at this because all of the world, so much could have been changed if like you two and maybe Granite got to therapy a lot earlier.
Exactly.
It's
but
tough for Skrulls. Skrulls have a hard time with therapy because we're so, we can take on,
Exactly.
like we can understand your feelings and all that. But,
Exactly.
You could just fake it.
It's very hard to get to ours.
Oh man, they need a whole new thing.
There's a shell.
I do have to ask both of you because like I'm literally sitting here. I'm like, which one do we want to pick? Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Batman. Now we're in the MCU. But there clearly is incredible actors who have a body of work both on stage and screen that is really impressive. There has to be something about genre that attracts both of you because you seem to be going back to it. So I'm just curious, Ben, starting with you. Is it because it's the same no matter what, or is there something different about these sort of like grand sort of sci-fi fantasy productions?
You know what it is, and particularly about this, they are really good people to work with, and people love this stuff. That's really good too. You can labour for a long time, and people not dig this and that, but this here, people love it, and they know what they're doing, and they are the best people ever to work for.
What about you? What is it? Because again, after Game of Thrones, you could do theater and rom-coms for the rest of your life, and I would be happy. But there has to be something that makes you want to maybe go back and dip in, right?
Well, yeah, this particular one was different because if just taking Marvel out of it for a moment, this is grounded, this is espionage, this feels different, it's always fun to join a franchise when they decide to do something completely different, be a part of that. That was exciting to me anyway. The cast, forget about it. Like, there are all these other things that are a part of it. But I think when you put something in a fantastical space, in a kind of magic realism world, as an actor, you really get to play. You really, really, really get to push as many boundaries as possible. And there's no end point. which makes it really exciting and fun. And there's some stuff that we got to do on this where I was like, I am having a good day. It's a good day today. I get to do some crazy. What did you do with your day? Let me tell you about what I'm not going to because I'm going to spoil some stuff, but it was fun.
For years, you've been avoiding Earth. I have called for your help plenty of other times, and you've been pretty content to let those calls go straight to voicemail.
Yeah, well, this is different.
Colby, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think it was really interesting what you said about this being the most that you got to sort of live in Mariah, and she really gets to show. What was that like? I mean, this is, I don't know how many performances deep if you count like the voices and all the shows and everything.
Yes.
What was that like to sort of like take that leap and back in something that you're familiar with, episodic television, you know?
Well, my job on these projects is really to give the audience the information. Like, hi, this is what just happened. This is what we're trying to do.
And give great face to Nick Fury. Let's
and
be
a
real.
little sass to Fury. That's literally my job. So it was really thrilling to me to be able to have a heart-to-heart scene with Fury in this and not have to play. I mean, certainly there are moments of we've got to get to A to B. We got to move the story along logistically. And but in this, you got more of the sense of what the relationship is between these two people who have been working together for a very long time. You're able to sort of get a sense of what the world is, you know, and it's not glamorous, you know. That's also a big difference. Is the first Avengers, we were on a spaceship, like we were floating in the sky, and so we were in Stark Tower for the second one. You know, there's these grand sets, and in this one, we're literally sitting around a table, like cooking popcorn in Moscow. So it just had a gravitas that I hadn't been able to experience in previous Marvel things.
The one thing I will say, though, for exposition, whatever you had to do, there's still iconic moments because I will never forget he's fast and she's weird. Like, that is like the quote.
Yes, that's
and that
true.
was exposition, and it was
true.
like iconic.
That's true. Yeah, that was a good, like, we got the jargon, but also that's what we're trying to say.
That
yeah,
was
that
pretty
was a good one.
iconic.
That was a good one.
I will say it's also great that you get to work with Sam so closely. It's like so many folks, honestly, in the MCU don't even get to spend that much time with him because he pops in and out. But what is it like for you guys? Because you're right, the characters in this one really talk about what they mean to each other. I think a lot of people are going to be talking a lot about your character. Let's just go ahead and put that out there with this series.
Sure.
So what was it like sort of knowing that the fans are really going to get to see a different look and emotionality around your character?
Yeah, well, I think it's, you know, it's funny because we're talking about, like, they have all these conversations, but Fury's not giving me anything.
Yeah.
Like, Fury is he is playing it very close to the chest, and he is not opening up at all. And that's extremely frustrating and seemingly not aware of the current situation and what we're up against. And so I think that's sort of what's creating the tension. And we get to see Maria for the first time calling him out on stuff that, I mean, you know how terrifying that is? Like, I mean, it's terrifying to call Sam out on stuff. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to call out Nick Fury on something? Like, be in touch with your emotions. Like, it's those are tricky things to do, but it shows just what kind of relationship they have that she's able to ask those questions, because I don't know many other people who could.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because I will say for wherever folks are with this series, pretty much from episode 1, they're going to be learning things about these characters that they've never seen before that are going to be very surprising. What would you say will be the most surprising things that fans are going to figure out about some of these longer characters like yourself and Fury and even someone like Telios? What do you think is the most surprising thing that folks are maybe going to figure out through this spy thriller?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of promises were made, and I think that there's always conversations about stakes on these projects. And with each project, you have to, like, rewire, because you're like, okay, I know this is happening, but also, do you remember when, like, there was that crazy alien attack that we all went through? Okay. And so you kind of have to go, where are we now with the experience that we've had, and how does that work with the emotion? And this one, it was kind of easy because there was already so much history. And what was boiling to the surface was the frustration of Fury's lack of action. and obviously lack of presence. But so I think that we're able to sort of play off of the things that we've experienced in the past and bring them, like, it's much more nuanced, is I think what I'm trying to say, is having these scenes, we have such a history that it just builds the current scenes that we're in.
There's a lot of new faces that are part of
Yes.
this. Kingsley, Olivia, and Emilia. Who do you think folks are going to be most surprised in what they do from these newcomers? Because those three
Yes.
alone are just like enough.
You're right. It's such a wonderful cast. I think like Kingsley Ben is like, he's dark and hard to break down, and you really don't know what's coming from him. I mean, Emilia is so amazing, and I think that her story arc is incredible, and she's so talented. Olivia Colman, I think, is the most, it will kind of take people by surprise because it's Olivia Colman, who's so funny and charming and likable, and she's really intense in this series.
Very much so.
And she's really dark. She does some pretty nasty things
With a smile.
Yes, yeah, which is the worst. It's deadly.
The great Nick Fury.
First of all, Kingsley, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the performance. I was just thinking one night in Miami, it's nice to see you have legs, to see you in person,
Yeah.
first impress, but
It was such a bizarre moment of just meeting everyone on a screen, and
now you see him in
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But I do have to ask you, because that was sort of our introduction to you, but you were a decade into your career, but joining the MCU has to feel like something a little bit different. What made you want to join it? How familiar with it? Were you like, I need to get into the MCU, or was this just the role?
It was just the role.
You know?
It was just the role, yeah. The producers approached a couple of weeks after One Night in Miami came out, and so I didn't think that wasn't a coincidence. They came to me for this villain role, which I was sort of curious about, and was sort of wondering, wanted to know more about it. And then I just had some great conversations with the producers about the story, what they were going for. They wanted to go for a darker tone, maybe like a thriller, and I was like, yeah, this is a completely different direction for me, and yeah, just as we spoke more about the character. There's a couple of scenes, they sent me taster scenes for some stuff with Sam and Ben, and I was like, it's gonna be cold.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, you come from like the theater world, and I know that it is about the performance and so much of that, but when you are playing a villain, one thing that's sort of like unique to the MCU, or I would say just good villains in general, is feeling that you understand the reason why they're doing what they're doing, even if they're going about it in a hard way. Is that something that you think folks are going to take with Granick? Because he's a very charismatic villain.
I hope so. It was definitely important to me, like understanding, like the why of his behavior, like and trying to get underneath what kind of things must have happened to him, what his experiences must have been on Earth and before to lead him to like behave in these like atrocious ways. Yeah, just like that someone so full of hatred who really trusts no one at like at the beginning, at the point we certainly when we meet him, it's like, yo, this guy doesn't trust anyone. And there's without giving any spoilers away, there was just a few indications from the writing that like the infliction of suffering, like how important it is for him to have Fury and Talos experience that, to experience him inflicting it on them, felt really kind of sadistic, if not sociopathic. Wow. And I was like, yo, I've never been approached to play anyone like this. And like, even if the writing wasn't perfect in all the places, there was a collaborative enough environment to like try and hold a true psychological through line and adjust and tweak and just make sure that he felt really grounded all along the way. Because, Olivia and Sam and Ben, the humor was going to come from other places. So for me, it was just about holding as dark a tension as possible, and just to make him satisfying to me was like really trying to lean away from any sentimentality. That it's not us against them. I don't think he feels anything for anyone at this stage. At some point he did. So yeah, the why, like why he's behaving like this and how he arrived at this place. We kind of tried to weave that in as much as possible so that the audience could go away going, like, I kind of understand where he's coming from. You know, I grew up with a lot of guys who have behaved in similar ways, or like, you know, there was a lot to draw from.
And now, let's be honest, having Ben Mendelsohn and Samuel L. Jackson and Olivia Colman as scene partners is not a bad way to go.
It was the draw. Me and Olivia didn't have so much. We'd kind of, she'd be on set and then she'd leave and then I'd go on. But Sam and Ben, yeah, they were the draw, if I'm honest with you. It was those two. It was like the producers approached, and then it was the stuff with those guys. I was like, yeah, no, this is a must. And I hadn't worked in a while. COVID.
Let me ask you this though about it, is because you're putting them literally on their heels through most of the story, at least the part that we've kind of gotten to see. That's got to be a really intriguing thing, because most of the time when you're acting with actors alongside that, you know, maybe it's like One Night in Miami where you guys are doing this ensemble. You were literally getting to be in like a very like Wimbledon-esque, like I give it to you as hard as you give it to me with these. What was that like?
Oh, that's coming with these guys. Is that
yeah,
what you mean?
That's like, what was it like
coming.
doing that? Like that whole like
really,
back and forth.
Really fun, because we watched the first 2 episodes last night, and I was like, oh wow, there's so much more to come. Do you know what I mean? This is just the beginning. It's kind of exciting. But yeah, the back and forth was awesome. Like Sam in particular, because the scene towards the end was a real like showdown, and like we had some great. You can't get it every time because we're trying to keep an organic flow, and we're trying to find real chemistry and moments. But every now and again, we get a couple of takes with, oh, I hope they keep that. You know, Sam would do something, you'd be like, oh, that's cold. You know, and Ben as well, man. Like whenever Ben can just on take 4 just randomly do something so beautiful, and that's what kind of made the experience really special. That's what I love about acting as well, is that you go like, you know, if we really commit and everyone's prepped and we do our homework, you can create these like real moments of explosions of, you know, different emotions and stuff. So, I think we achieved that in different bits of this. So.
It's funny that you say that, because you're right, everything kind of shut down, and now a lot of this work that you were working on through COVID is now coming out between this and Barbie and soon to be Bob Marley. I just have to say, you know, for folks that got introduced to us then, talk about this moment and like having all these 3 projects come out like in this quick succession. How are you feeling about this year? I mean, like literally one of the biggest television shows, movies, and biopics of the year, probably.
It's glorious to work, man. You feel so really lucky. Like I'm just like, I'm still working. I was left. Yeah, just feel really grateful. And they've been 3 wildly different, but like beautiful experiences in their own different ways. And like to do Barbie straight after this was nuts, and then to be like prepping Bob as I was doing Barbie was insane. And then it all just kind of came to an end a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I need to go on holiday and absorb, you know. So, but it's, you know, lucky, man, lucky.
Can you give us just a little bit, I feel bad even asking this, can you give us just a little bit of preview of what folks can expect with those 2 projects, since we're talking about this one? Like, give me a little bit of one-liner on Barbie, and then also with the Bob Marley. Like
Barbie, I think I'm more excited than anyone to see it, because that was the best script I ever read. It was hilarious. Like, it was funny as hell, and so I'm really excited to see that. And Bob, I think, you know, there was kind of a beautiful chaos about the whole creation of it, and the family were right there. Like Ziggy was with me every day, you know. So, and some of Bob's best friends were behind the camera. So it was, I mean, I haven't absorbed like what the hell just went down with that. Like, but what a treat, man. Like to play him, and to just on a musical level, to get to spend that amount of time studying the music and the dancing and the singing and the team I had around, like it was nuts.
This is my war alone. And I'm the last person standing between them and what they really want. And what is that?
First of all, congratulations on the series. I just have to say, what was it like as a director? First of all, you have this incredible cast, but on top of that, these sort of like incredible locations where you guys are having to film, and just sort of this sort of expansive global spy thriller. How did you balance those 2?
Balance the cast and the locations?
Like, sort of like this grand scale of the series, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think of it as a balance. I think of it just ramping up. The best, most amazing cast in the world. coupled with stunningly beautiful locations, and it just keeps ramping up and giving somebody like me an opportunity to tell a visual story in the best way possible.
One thing I think Marvel's did a great job with the marketing. They're really making this a secret invasion, and so there's a lot of unanswered questions even sort of going into the series. What do you think audiences can get prepared for? Because I think it's a different type of even what the MCU has done to this point on series or on screen.
I think, to your point, get prepared for the unexpected. You know, I'm not going to reveal story points, and I think the whole tone of it's something that's very different from the MCU, but it's something that people have to sort of ride in and not be prepared for.
One thing, I think every project presents its own series of challenges, but what would you say was the one that was really interesting that you discovered through the process of directing this that you didn't maybe expect going into like pre-production? Because there's always new things that sort of come up along the way.
I think the way Marvel works, their process, it's a constant series of explorations and discoveries all along the way. There are no hard and fast scripts, hard and fast anything. You go in with the actors and the producers and the people at Marvel, and you just keep exploring along the way and revealing. And in a way, that's a bit of a challenge because production is a moving freight train, and it's also exploring along the way. So it's a different challenge, but rewarding in its own way because you always feel like you're peeling back the onion and exploring a new story.
One of the great things I would say with this is definitely the cast, but in addition to that, this is a Marvel story, and you have at the sort of, you know, first name on the call sheet a man who's been in probably more iterations of this, whether it be voice or on screen or on television. What was it like having Sam as a partner in this, both as somebody that has been so intricately involved in the MCU, but also someone who literally just loves genre and genre filmmaking and this type of filmmaking?
He's a great collaborator, and I think this was a great piece to collaborate on with him because it's the Nick Fury story in many ways. At least he's the entry point and the heart and the soul of this story, and that has never been explored in the MCU, that version of Nick Fury, and he was really open to it and ready for it, and it was very exciting for me.
One of the things we got to talk to him about was specifically the idea that we get to see more of Nick Fury. We get to see, well, he said, we get to see him at home. We get to see him literally open the door to his house, which is something that you've never seen before. What was intriguing to you about that as a director, sort of peeling back the layer of this character that the audience you know that you're producing it for is very familiar with? And so you kind of get to really have fun with this backstory.
Well, the nice thing is I don't think the audience is familiar with this Nick Fury. They're familiar with that Nick Fury, which is very different from now let's go home with him and let's go inside and find his fears and vulnerabilities and questions, which is something the Nick Fury character has never done before. So it was a new exploration, not, hanging on to an old one and trying to make it fresh. I think it's a completely new exploration into the character.
Well, that's really interesting. One of the things that all the actors mentioned is there's these incredible moments because it is more of like a play in a lot of ways. There's family dynamics. There's like long-seated trauma and history that are being explored. It's almost Shakespearean in some of these scenes between these two characters. There's been great ones that we've already heard about between like Dawn and Sam. There's scenes that have been alluded to between Sam and like Mariah. There's also scenes of like what Gravik, Kingsley does, what Emilia does. Is there one you're particularly wanting to keep audiences on the lookout for where it's like, again, what they like to call this tennis match of two great actors? Apparently there's some between Ben and Sam as well. Is there one you want audiences to keep out for? Maybe an episode that you want audiences to sort of like it?
I wish I could single something out. I have such affection for every actor that's in there. There are great, long, interesting scenes between Sam and Olivia, between Sam and Ben, between Sam and Dawn, between Sam and Emilia, between Ben and Emilia. I think there's electric performances across the board.
Awesome. All right. So they have a bath of riches to choose from.
I hope so.
That's what we tell them. It's interesting that this is the timing of the show. I mean, you guys literally had a like secret message marketing campaign where people are going to like different websites and like putting in secret codes. It's weird to have that happen at the same time there's like extremely renewed interest in alien invasions. That's got to be kind of an interesting moment for you as a director. When you guys were making this, you did not think that like literal like UFO sightings and this sort of idea of a secret invasion would be part of the consciousness. Does that like kind of intrigue you even more now as a director? It's like a layer to the story you didn't intend that now plays against the audience.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. That's what you take it as. That.
Yeah, it's like it's a gift. It's a gift to the marketing. It's a gift to the audience's experience that it feels more real and grounded to their experience of life.